This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A federal judge has dismissed the criminal cases against former FBI Director James Comey and Letitia James. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The Pentagon says it's investigating a senator for taking part in a video calling for American troops to defy illegal orders. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The grandparents of the teenager killed on a cruise ship are speaking out.
I don't know what happened in that room.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks will try to keep yesterday's rally going today. A strong start to the holiday-shortened week. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The latest on a Florida eviction that led to fatal gunfire. A former senator wants to face his rival to become governor, and the great Thanksgiving pie debate. All ahead on America in the Morning. A federal judge in Virginia has thrown out the cases brought by the Department of Justice against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Lisa Dwyer reports on the judge's ruling, one that White House spokeswoman Karoline Leavitt, in an interview with Fox News, described as both unprecedented and a technical judgment, one they vow to appeal.
This judge took an unprecedented action to throw these cases out to shield James Comey and Letitia James from accountability based on a technical ruling, and the administration disagrees with that technical ruling. We believe the attorney in this case, Lindsay Halligan, is not only extremely qualified for this position, but she was in fact legally appointed, and I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order.
A federal judge has dismissed the criminal cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, concluding that the prosecutor who brought the charges at President Donald Trump's urging was illegally appointed by the Justice Department.
The message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free.
The ruling amounts to a stunning rebuke of the Trump administration's efforts to target Trump's political opponents, as well as its legal maneuvering to hastily install a loyalist prosecutor willing to file the cases.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price.
The previous prosecutor lost his job amid pressure from the White House to file charges against Comey and James. However, the judge dismissed the cases without prejudice, leaving the door open for the Justice Department to potentially revive the prosecutions. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The Trump administration remains outraged following a video circulated on social media by Democrat members of Congress telling active duty service members they can refuse what they called illegal orders, which prompted the Pentagon to open an investigation into former Navy commander and astronaut Arizona Senator Mark Kelly after his appearance in the video last week. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
The Pentagon says it's investigating a senator for taking part in a video calling for American troops to defy illegal orders. Arizona's Mark Kelly was one of 6 Democrats in the video, all veterans of either the military or CIA.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Their message?
Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
The Pentagon's now taking the extraordinary step of directly threatening a sitting member of Congress with an investigation, suggesting Kelly's statements violated federal law by interfering with the military's loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline.
What Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces. Senator Mark Kelly well knows the rules of the military and the respect that one must have for the chain of command, and that all lawful orders are presumed to be legal by our service members. You can't have a functioning military if there is disorder and chaos within the ranks, and that's what these Democrat members were encouraging.
It's citing another law that allows retired troops to be recalled to active duty for potential court-martial or other measures. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Recharge this season with cozy, soothing comfort. Save on mattress and base bundles, plus free premium delivery. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. Locksmith killed during eviction process. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. It's 14 after. Watching the weather may be slightly easier than watching what we eat this time of year. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with today's forecast.
As many of us are planning on traveling for Thanksgiving, we are also watching what conditions we may have to deal with in doing so. And for those traveling through the northern plains from northern South Dakota into North Dakota and a good portion of Minnesota, we will need to watch for snow from a strengthening storm moving through the area. And this will move into northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan tonight. Snow will become intense for a time with significant blowing and drifting this afternoon into tonight. Snow totals will surpass 6 inches in many areas with upwards of a foot in parts of northeast Minnesota into northwest Wisconsin. Another system ahead of the Northern Plains storm will spread rain through the Great Lakes into the northeast today and tonight, with rain as far south as the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. And then the southern part of the associated cold front from this storm will contain thunderstorms, some of which will be strong to severe with hail, downpours, and even an isolated tornado possible. And the best chance for these stronger storms will be from southern Mississippi through much of Alabama into northern Georgia, western Tennessee, and the western Carolinas. Another area where heavy rain will fall is in the northwest from a storm moving onshore. This will fall across Washington into northern Oregon. Some of the rain along the coast will be quite heavy, leading to localized flooding. Snow will fall in the Cascades, and there could be a foot or more of snow in some of the higher passes. That's the weather across America. Fargo, North Dakota will be one of the locations with snow today, accumulating up to 6 inches with a high of 33. Mobile, Alabama will have a couple of gusty thunderstorms with a high of 78. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The grandparents of the teenager who died on a cruise ship are speaking out after the case was ruled a homicide, and investigators focusing in on a family member for the crime. Correspondent Clayton Neville has been following the story.
Anna Kepner's stepbrother, now a suspect in the 18-year-old's killing. Police and family have been tight-lipped, though, to this point, not confirming details on the investigation. But court records show in a separate case that the stepbrother is a suspect in the homicide. In an interview with ABC News, Anna Kepner's grandparents, Jeffrey and Barbara Kepner, said that Anna apparently died of mechanical asphyxia, essentially strangling her neck.
He was the only one seen coming and going, so I can't accuse him because I don't know what happened in that room, but the summation would be that he did something.
Her grandmother was asked if she had spoken with the stepbrother.
I heard him, in his own words, say he does not remember what happened.
The stepbrother's mother is now pushing for her child custody civil case to be sealed. Documents in that case revealed the information tying the stepbrother to Kepner's homicide. I'm Clayton Neville.
A locksmith who was assisting sheriff's deputies attempting to unlock a door so police could serve an eviction notice died of his injuries days after a Florida deputy was killed and another was shot during the assignment. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports.
A civilian locksmith who was shot while assisting sheriff's deputies serving an eviction notice in Vero Beach, Florida, has died from his injuries. The Indian River County's Sheriff's Office identified him as 76-year-old David Long. His death brings the toll from last Friday's shooting to 3. Deputy Terry Sweeting Mashkow was also killed. The 25-year veteran and Long were shot by the suspect, who was facing eviction. Another deputy was shot in the shoulder and was released from the hospital over the weekend. The accused shooter, Michael Halbertstam, also died from his wounds on Saturday. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
A weakening job market could lead to a Fed rate cut and car prices at an all-time high. Those stories and more after these messages. America in the Morning continues. The Business Report is sponsored by Gusto. Gusto's a simple online payroll and benefits tool built for small businesses. Learn more at gusto.com/radio. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a nice Monday holiday week rally for stocks yesterday. The Dow was up 200 points. The Nasdaq was up just about 600 points. The financial markets will be closed on Thursday for Thanksgiving, but there's a half day of trading on Friday. So yesterday, we saw a reawakening of the AI trade. NVIDIA shares were higher, but the green for stocks doesn't mean the economy is easy. Some believe it's very uncertain.
Uncertainty is the word I would use. When you have policy that's driving in an inflationary direction at a time when the deficit is as large as it is and growing, and the tariffs distorting so much that's going on in our economy, it's hard to say I'm comfortable. I'm not of the view that we're about to go over a cliff, but a shock could come, and we're not well poised to handle a shock.
Former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew on CNBC. Investors got another indication that the Fed, seeing the job market weakening, may cut interest rates at its December meeting.
Yeah, Mary Daly telling the Wall Street Journal that she does back a December rate cut, largely because of her concern about the labor market.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman on the San Francisco Fed president's sentiment. Amazon to spend up to $50 billion on AI infrastructure for the U.S. government to support federal agencies. Americans are paying 30% more for a car since 2018. This is according to Cox Automotive, and loan payments for new cars have hit a record high again.
Auto loan monthly payments. According to TransUnion, the average monthly new vehicle auto loan payment is more than $750. A couple of things have been driving auto prices and auto payments higher. First of all, automakers are focusing on higher trim levels. I know everybody says, well, what about the base price? You know how few people order a base model? It just doesn't happen. And the automakers realize that people want the technology and the features that they've become used to.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. On today's watch list, it's actually busy ahead of the holiday. We get earnings from big-name retailers like Best Buy, Abercrombie & Fitch, Burlington Stores, Dick's Sporting Goods, Kohl's. Plus, we hear from J.M. Smucker and Workday. We find out the latest on home prices from S&P Case-Shiller. We also get the latest on consumer confidence today, and we'll get a report that's backward-looking on inflation. The PPI for September, the Producer Price Index, that's inflation at the wholesale level. That was held up in the government shutdown.
Thank you. There's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, the Great Thanksgiving Table Debate after these messages. The Alabama governor's race could soon become one of the most watched elections for 2026. Former Democrat Senator Doug Jones filed paperwork to run for governor of Alabama, setting up a high-profile race against Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville. It was the current Alabama senator and former Auburn University football coach that defeated Jones in the 2020 election by a landslide, running a pro-Trump campaign. Both Jones and Tuberville are looking to succeed Governor Kay Ivey, who is term limited. A win by Jones in the deep red state would make him the first Democrat governor of Alabama since 2003. With Thanksgiving just 2 days away, it's not just turkey that gets the attention, sweet potato or pumpkin. Politics aside, that's the great Thanksgiving table debate. Here's correspondent Julie Walker.
One of the great Thanksgiving debates for some is over pie. Pumpkin versus sweet potato. They both may be orange, but that's where it ends, says Mississippi bakery owner Elizabeth Arnold.
I would say the main difference is like the spice. So sweet potato is a lot sweeter. It has white sugar, brown sugar, and then the pumpkin pie is less sweet and more spicy.
For self-described soul food scholar Adrian Miller, there's a clear winner.
If there were to be a Mount Rushmore of soul food desserts, sweet potato pie would definitely be there.
In case you're wondering, sweet potatoes are root vegetables, pumpkins are botanically considered fruits, and I prefer apple pie at Thanksgiving. I'm Julie Walker.
In case we miss you Thursday, happy Thanksgiving. America in the Morning for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The White House hints progress is being made in hammering out a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
The Trump health care plan is set to roll out? Not quite yet. I'm Rich Johnson.
Air travelers this Thanksgiving may feel on edge after the government shutdown. I'm Julie Walker.
The White House mounts more pressure on Venezuela. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump says he and his Chinese counterpart will trade visits next year. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Your favorite X account may be a psyop. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Kevin Spacey sets the record straight on his living conditions. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. A check of the all-important Thanksgiving week forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Some wet travel conditions will cover a good part of the east today and tonight. This will come from a storm spreading rain through the Great Lakes into the northeast, with rain as far south as the Ohio Valley and Middle Atlantic. And then the southern part of the cold front from this system will produce thunderstorms, some of which could be strong to severe, containing hail, downpours, and even an isolated tornado. The best chance for these stronger storms will be from southern Mississippi to much of Alabama into northern Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and the western Carolinas. Another area of heavy rain will fall across the northwest from a storm moving onshore. This will fall across Washington and northern Oregon and then continue eastward to northern Idaho. Some of the rain along the coast will be quite heavy, leading to localized flooding. And then snow will fall in the Cascades, and there could be a foot or more in some of the higher passes. And snow will mix with or even change over in inland areas from eastern Washington into Idaho. There's also a strengthening storm moving through the northern plains, which will produce moderate to heavy snow through northern South Dakota into North Dakota and a good portion of Minnesota. And this will move into northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan tonight. Snow could become intense at times, with significant blowing and drifting this afternoon into tonight. Snow totals will surpass 6 inches in many areas, with upwards to a foot in parts of northeast Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin. The rest of the nation is going to be largely dry from the west into the southwest and central Rockies, as well as the central and southern plains. These areas will at least have some sunshine today, with highs ranging from the 30s and 40s in parts of the Rockies and warming to near 90 in parts of South Texas. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Negotiators say they're making progress in talks with Ukraine about a 28-point plan to end the war with Russia that some said was heavily tilted in their favor. But there's still questions being raised by Ukraine, Russia, and nations in Europe. John Stolness has the latest from Washington.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt says they're getting good reports from Geneva, where U.S. officials are meeting with Ukrainian leaders to amend a peace deal that had the backing of the Trump administration late last week.
Everybody inside feels optimistic about what happened and transpired yesterday in Geneva. Secretary Rubio, Special Envoy Witkoff, the whole team really worked through the points of that 28-point peace plan that the United States authored with input from both sides, the Russians and the Ukrainians. And ultimately, the vast majority of these points have been agreed upon.
In remarks at an international summit, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says talks continue.
We are at a critical moment, and we are working closely with the United States, with European partners, with many others to define steps that can end Russia's war.
The initial 28-point plan would have forced Ukraine to hand over portions of the country wanted by Russian President Vladimir Putin and refuse to offer automatic security assistance from the West should Russia attack Ukraine in the future. Many U.S. lawmakers saw those stances as a capitulation to Russia. However, talks with Ukraine over the weekend sought to change some of those terms. Former U.S. diplomat Kurt Volker says there are a number of issues that may bring Russian President Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table.
On the front line, it is Russian soldiers who are being lost by the thousands. Their economy is in very weak shape. The Ukrainians have been successful at disrupting oil refineries so that a resource-rich country like Russia is actually having gasoline shortages. And everybody in Russia knows this. So Putin is not in a very strong position going forward here.
Moscow cautioned they have not seen the results of the negotiations between the U.S. and Ukraine. And as the talks continue, Russia launched a wave of attacks on Kyiv yesterday, hitting residential buildings and an energy plant. John Stolness, Washington.
President Trump was going to unveil his plan to replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, but the White House now says that rollout is being postponed. Details from correspondent Rich Johnson.
Republicans have been eager to see what the president's proposing to replace what they have hated since the day it was enacted.
The reality is Obamacare has been, over the past 15 years, a disaster.
Utah Representative Mike Kennedy, who is a doctor, says he doesn't know what the Trump plan will look like, but he hopes it will fund individual health savings accounts.
That puts the patient in charge of their own health care instead of waiting for some government bureaucracy to say that this is how we should go about things.
Several reports say the White House pulled the Trump plan because it initially calls for a 2-year extension of the ACA insurance premium subsidies, something his fellow Republicans oppose. Without a subsidy extension, ACA premiums will rise to unaffordable levels for millions. The subsidies were at the center of why Democrats refused to accept the short-term budget bill, shutting down the government for more than a month. As for Obamacare itself,
well, the Affordable Care Act has been a huge success.
So says one of its architects, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel of the Center for American Progress. He says that any replacement must do something about skyrocketing costs and deal with what he calls reverse incentives in the entire U.S. healthcare system.
We pay doctors to do more rather than to keep people healthy. We have administrative costs that are at 20% of total healthcare spending, way too high by anyone's estimation.
The comments of Kennedy and Emanuel, courtesy of CNN. Whatever's in the Trump plan and when we will see it is still anyone's guess. But the clock is ticking. The deadline for ACA signups for next year is just 20 days away. I'm Rich Johnson.
The shutdown is over and flights have resumed, but the nation's roads, rails, and skies will be heavily tested this Thanksgiving holiday weekend as a record number of people will be traveling, and those travelers might ask themselves, what now? Correspondent Julie Walker reports those taking planes, trains, and automobiles for the holiday are expected to shatter the all-time Thanksgiving record.
Air travelers this Thanksgiving may feel on edge after the government shutdown caused widespread flight cancellations and delays. That may be over, but experts warn pack some patience.
We're projecting nearly 82 million people. That would be a new record, not only in the overall category, but we're also projecting record travel in the air and on the roads. There may be some people who said, you know what, I want to avoid airports altogether. I'm going to drive my own vehicle and I'm going to do a road trip instead. So we're projecting at least 73 million people, but that number could end up being higher because more people now potentially are switching to road trips.
Aixa Diaz is with AAA.
I think a lot of people were hoping there would be a resolution in time for Thanksgiving week. We got that. So I think now they're just having to brace for the normal sort of delays and cancellations that could happen over a holiday period.
The FAA is preparing for its busiest Thanksgiving in 15 years with over 360,000 flights scheduled. The TSA expects to screen more than 17.8 million people. And for those who like to cut it close, Diaz has some advice.
That Tuesday and Wednesday are notorious for being crowded at the airports, as well as the Sunday coming back. We are advising, give yourself extra time. We sound like a broken record, but especially this year, we're expecting that people need to arrive at least 2 hours before a domestic flight.
Happy travels. I'm Julie Walker.
Trump continues his pressure on Venezuela and outrage over the new feature on the app X. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. President Trump signs an executive order Monday that took a step toward designating parts of the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terror organization. Trump's comment comes shortly after Texas declared the group a terrorist organization and just days after a report was released warning of the Muslim Brotherhood's growing influence in the U.S. The report on the Muslim Brotherhood outlined their goals of establishing an Islamic State government by Sharia law and has supported both Hamas and Hezbollah in their battles against Israel. The Trump administration continues to build pressure on Venezuelan leadership, which President Trump directly links to drug and human smuggling. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Trump administration has formally designated Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his government allies as members of a foreign terrorist organization. The White House is targeting the Cartel de los Soles and claims that it's made up of government officials, mostly within the Venezuelan military, who've been linked to drug trafficking.
Well, as the president is so good at, I'll try to be just as good. I'm not going to broadcast any actions that may or may not be happening with respect to Venezuela. I know I've been very clear about the administration's position, as has the president and his national security team. We view the Maduro regime as being illegitimate.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt not giving away any specifics on potential strikes or attacks moving forward.
And the president has been very satisfied with the successful strikes against narco-terrorists and foreign terrorists that are illegally trafficking drugs towards the United States of America. He's not going to tolerate that, and you can expect to see those strikes continue.
The designation lets President Trump place more sanctions against Maduro, focusing on his assets and power structure. The move comes as the U.S. has sent aircraft carriers to the Caribbean, as well as 15,000 troops to that region. The administration's been bombing boats in waters around Central America, just north of Venezuela, specifically boats accused of transporting drugs to the U.S. The legality of the recent strikes have been called into question, though. In fact, Democratic senators are now asking the Trump administration to provide legal basis for the Venezuelan strikes. I'm Clayton Neville.
In an effort to boost relations, President Trump says he'll trade state visits next year with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
President Trump says he and his Chinese counterpart will trade visits next year. The president says he's accepted an invitation to visit Beijing in April and has reciprocated by inviting President Xi Jinping for a state visit to the U.S. after that. His announcements on social media came after a phone call with Xi, nearly a month after they met in South Korea. They spoke days after Japan's new prime minister said her military could get involved if China takes action against Taiwan, which Beijing insists come under its control. China says that crossed a red line, and that Xi told the president returning Taiwan to mainland China is vital. The U.S. has taken no side on Taiwan's sovereignty, but is against using force to seize it. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
College football players from schools in Georgia and Alabama are facing serious police charges. Details from correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh.
Georgia offensive lineman Nair Daniels has been dismissed from the football team following his arrest on multiple charges resulting from a high-speed police chase. Bulldogs coach Kirby Smart spoke Monday.
I know you guys want to ask about Nair. I have not had a chance to talk to him or his family, but obviously he'll no longer be with us.
Daniels was booked on 3 felony charges, including fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer, and 10 misdemeanor charges. The misdemeanor charges include reckless driving and speeding. The University of Alabama at Birmingham says a football player stabbed 2 teammates Saturday morning, hours before the school's game against South Florida. UAB said both wounded players were in stable condition. County jail records show offensive lineman Daniel Mincy was arrested and charged with assault and attempted murder. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
X has a new feature that many people are up in arms about, one that could be exposing users for pretending to be something or somewhere they're not. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
The new About feature on X has conspiracy theorists crowing. Controversy has been brewing about authenticity on X accounts. And the About This Account feature, which dropped globally just a few days ago, is already stirring up a bunch of drama. X's director of product, Nikita Beer, said the feature tucks extra intel right into the user's profiles. You tap the joined date and boom, you're hit with the account creation timestamp, username change history, app download source, and most explosively, the inferred country of region or origin pulled from their IP address. Beer called it an important first step to securing the integrity of the global town square. This was aimed squarely at spotting inauthentic actors like bots that flood the feeds with misleading takes. X has admitted the location data is not 100% accurate for older accounts due to factors like VPNs, travel, or stale IPs. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Here's Tuesday Sports on America in the Morning with our Robert Workman.
NFL Week 12 concluded Monday night as the 49ers nailed the Panthers 20-9. A good night for Christian McCaffrey against his old team, 142 yards from scrimmage, including a rushing touchdown.
Anytime I'm able to step on the field and play, I feel extremely blessed. My biggest critic, always want more, but love the fact that our guys went out there today and found a way to win.
NBA, the Pistons tied a franchise record with their 13th win in a row, 122-117 over the Pacers. Cade Cunningham led the way with 24 points. Raptors won their 8th straight, 110-99 over the Cavaliers, a season-high 37 for Brandon Ingram. Heat beat the Mavericks for their 5th consecutive win. Blazers got 35 from Jeremy Grant as they stopped the Bucks. Milwaukee has dropped its last 5. Pelicans end a 9-game skid by outrunning the Bulls. Knicks ripped the Nets. Karl Anthony Towns scored 37. Nuggets got a triple-double from Nikola Jokic to top the Grizzlies. Rockets rolled over the Suns. Warriors wowed the Jazz. And the Kings topped the Timberwolves in overtime. NHL, Logan Cooley had 4 goals to lead the Mammoth to a 5-1 win over the Golden Knights. Cooley also assisted on Utah's other goal for a 5-point night. Wins for the Lightning, Devils, Rangers, Panthers, Capitals, and Kings. And college hoops, number 2 Arizona drubbed Denver at the Wildcat Classic in Tucson. The hosts are now 6-0. At the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas, third-ranked Houston battled past Syracuse in overtime to boost the Cougars to 6-0. That's Tuesday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, A-list actor reported homeless after these messages. He was one of the musicians responsible for introducing reggae music to the world, who wrote a hit song at the age of 14 and later became an actor and movie star. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports on the death of Grammy Award winner Jimmy Cliff.
Jimmy Cliff, the charismatic reggae pioneer and actor who preached joy, defiance, and resilience in such classics as Many Rivers to Cross, You Can Get It If You Really Want, and Vietnam, as well as starring in the landmark movie The Harder They Come, has died. Cliff, a native Jamaican whose birth name was James Chambers, joined Kingston's emerging music scene in his teens, changed his name, and helped lead a movement in the 1960s that included such future stars as Bob Marley, Toots Hibbert, and Peter Tosh. Cliff was nominated for 7 Grammys, winning twice for Best Reggae Album. In 2010, Cliff was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
At this point of the journey, I see it as another stepping stone to higher heights.
Jimmy Cliff was 81. Sound courtesy, Fuse. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
His film and Broadway career went from the penthouse to the outhouse, literally, after facing several allegations of sexual misconduct. Now Kevin Spacey setting the record straight after reports surfaced that he's become homeless. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr explains.
Last week, actor Kevin Spacey made news when a viral story reported that he was essentially homeless. On Monday, the Oscar winner took to Instagram to set the record straight.
In light of the recent articles claiming I am homeless, I feel the need to respond.
The story began with a paywalled interview from The Telegraph in which Spacey lamented his financial woes. These resulted from sexual assault allegations from 2017. Although he was found not liable for them in 2022 and not guilty of other sex offenses in London in 2023, the damage was done. His once A-list career in Hollywood had crumbled and he was deep in debt. In his Instagram video, Spacey clarified things.
I feel it would be disingenuous of me to allow you to believe that I am indeed homeless in the colloquial sense.
Spacey further compared his living situation to how things can be for a young performer.
I said I was basically living in hotels and Airbnbs and going where the work is, just as I did when I first started out in this business. I've been working nearly nonstop this entire year, and for that I have so much to be grateful for.
Spacey offered compassion for actual homeless people and differentiated his situation.
And there are many people, as we all know, who are indeed actually living on the streets or in their cars or in terrible financial situations, and my heart goes out to them.
I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.